Alright, so this much section was toast. Alright, we are back, and just an update, things are going as expected. We're going to refer to it metaphorically as what I like to call a rusty snowball. So, when working on rusty objects, you start getting into a project, you know, if you've done a few of these, that it's never going to go as smooth as you'd like it to. And that's exactly what's going on here. Let me show you. So, I've got both front seats removed. Rear seat is removed as well, just not the brackets. Didn't need to remove those. Here's how well it's going. Right here. Seat bracket bolt, broke. Seat bracket bolt, broke. This damage I was expecting. This damage here is what I expected. This is what I knew I was going to have to repair. I was just hoping the bolt wouldn't break. Even though I knew it would. I was confident it would. That one broke. Yeah, let me show you what's going on the other side. So this is the heavy plate that I pointed out once before where they done the floor repair. Yep, it was hillbillied up. So they just ran an all thread, or just a really long bolt with a big old stack of washers, something I might have done years ago. That came out, that was good, even though it's not the original hole. They must have had the same issue. This one, as you can see, went poorly. This one ended up just pulling plumb out of the floor here, which I knew was... So the body is technically separated from the frame. I do have the back pushed up. I have not started putting anything in place because I have to extract these broken spots or these broken bolts within the body. So I'm going to have some repair ahead of me. I may have enough hardware I can scrounge up to fix the seats. Let me show you what's going on with the seat bracket. Alright, so this thing was folding over. I don't know, looks like something's loose in there. Not too bad. But this is a little bent. I got to finish removing that bolt that pulled through the floor. This section here, flip it over, was what was broke, and allowing all this to move. This was the driver's seat. Big task, like I said, I got to get this bolt out. So I'm going to have to weld a nut on there and hope that it'll heat it up enough that I can get it out, and then hopefully without melting the seat belt, because that's going to really suck. It's right there, there's no way to avoid it. All I can do is soak it down and hope for the best, and hopefully it doesn't take me more than one shot to get it out. Anyway, alright, so this is the nut I'm going to use. Should give me plenty of surface area. I've already got my socket ready. In this case it's going to be a 13/16. Got my 1/2-inch drive. I don't want to use an impact on it. I want to be able to feel what it's doing. So let me get you guys set up. Get myself set up the rest of the way. We'll see if we can get this bolt extracted. It's going to be tough. It's going to be a little bit blind. Got me some water. Help keep things under control. I've already soaked the seat belt. See nothing. Nothing. This ain't gonna go well at all. Well, I gotta get set up better. This ain't working. Well, unfortunately, I did not get that on camera. It didn't go as good as I hoped for. It was really difficult to get a nut up in there underneath that seatbelt. And put some weld on it. The first one failed, cleaned it. Second round I was able to get it to burn in hot enough, and I was able to get it out. So it's a win. I'm sorry I didn't get to show it to you guys, but I am glad it came out. Alright, this is currently where we're at. Just got done sweeping everything out. It'll get pressure washed after a bit. Got a lot of that cleaned up. Cage is all unbolted. Just waiting on some help to get here so we can remove it. Then I'll be able to patch a couple of the holes, take care of the broken bolts. We will be happening. We are making progress. I did make a small error. I thought this one had broke off, so I cut into it to figure out how to extract it, only to find out that that one actually came out. I was able to extract the seat bolt, one of them. The other one, where it was all cracked and busted, I wasn't able to do. So I just finished cutting that out, and then I'll make a new piece for that. I can't remember if I have a broken bolt in this one. That's where that big knot is. That's where a body mount bolt goes. I'm gonna have to wire wheel, hand sand, and repaint the whole inside of the tub once all the repairs are done. And then I got some sound deadening mat that I'm gonna throw in here as well. At least that's the plan for now. All these little pieces here, this is all gonna fill in all those holes I cut. All right, currently have this one in. It's all tacked up. And kind of, I got to make the bolt for this. This is the other seat mount location. Got this all in place, welded out. Body mounts all taken care of. I brought my floor pan in. Very seriously thinking about just going ahead and cutting this out so I can be done with it. But it's going to open up a whole can of worms, and it gets a little tougher because this puts pedals in the way, and I'm not sure how far up I'll have to go. I think the pan goes all the way to the pinch weld there, but I'm going to try to avoid getting into that. I picked this floor pan up along with some other pieces from a Jeep. A guy was cleaning out his stock. This is brand new floor pan section, so I see it only right to get this thing put in there and make this look better and more sound. And then I'll be able to reconstruct some of this. This is pretty weak in here, even though I've done what I've done. There just isn't a lot of structure left there to hold. So I think putting that new floor pan in, I'll be able to fix that. This one's pushed back in place. This one's located. I've already put the seat in it to make sure it was going to fit. This is back in place. Making progress. All right, we're just going to continue on with that. Just zap and go, bouncing around, spreading the heat. Pretty typical stuff. So, I've got this most of the way welded in place. I got to go back and grind all that ugly weld off of there. This piece I'm prepping to put in right now. I'm throwing some paint on the back side because I had to put a weld nut with a washer on the back side. This is where the seat is, or seat bracket mounts to. That side, I got some seam sealer in. I went ahead just as an extra bit of protection and put some around the seams that I welded and ground down. Plus I threw some along the inside of that corner where the body and the floor meet. Just like I expected, as soon as I got in behind that little step thing, I could see some of it anyway. I could see it from the inside. I guess I'm going to repair that as well. There you go. Remove the side step. You can see the repair, previous repair from somebody. There's some lingering rust holes. Those need addressed. There's the step piece that came off of it. We're back. Things have escalated. Decided to remove this floor pan. We got issues. As I showed you a second ago, trying to figure out exactly what I'm going to cut out of this and recreate this. It shouldn't be too bad because it's mostly flat, with the exception of the P, the letter P in Jeep, which I'm not exactly sure how I'm going to pull that one off yet. I'm still debating how to fix it. I got all that old heavy plate out of here. I've left me a lip up toward the front to make life a little easier to weld down to. I need to trim, excuse me, just a little bit more off in the front. And then I'll be able to push this up far enough I can figure out where it's going to make contact, and then I'll figure out where I'm going to cut it. Almost there. Take off about another 1/4 of an inch off of about 2/3 of it. The rest of it looks pretty close. Pretty well mostly in there where it's going to lay. I'll weld it. In fact, I've got it pretty much where it's going to go. Like around that edge, I'm going to do like I did the front. I'm going to leave a lip there. And what I'll do is I'll probably go back and drill some holes in the pan so I can get some good spot welds all the way up along, all the way along the firewall through there. And then I'm going to leave a lip, probably 1/2 inch lip, 1 inch lip, maybe a 1 inch lip all the way around this and around here. And then I'll just do the same thing. I'm going to spot weld, hammer it and beat it into place. And then I'm just going to I'm going to seal it with weld all the way around this edge and around this edge. And I'll just hammer and beat it until it's all sealed in. Red lines where that structural piece has got a spot weld. Got this marked out. This is a from driver side, passenger side structural support. Going to spot weld it to there. Got this all painted in here. Going to let that dry while I'm drilling holes in this. So here we are. Got the pan all in place. Threw some self-tappers in there just to kind of hold things in place where I wanted it. Hold things down tight, and then I'm going to go back and start tacking areas and spot welding the holes that I've drilled. So I'll still have to do something with this here. I'll put something here to fix all this, probably a piece of sheet metal over top of it. I'll prep it real good, paint it. As you can see there, I'll just have to deal with it. I'll also have to deal with that, just part of it. And then of course I'll clean that whole channel out. This is the outer edge, the body. I'll wire wheel all that out, clean it all up, prep it. It'll get seam sealed and paint. All right, there we have it. Floor pan is in. Going to go around and clean up all the weld probably tomorrow. Got that patch welded in. I'll clean that up. I'll make the piece for that tomorrow. I'm going to try to get these pieces made tomorrow. We will see. If not, it will be later on this week. I still got to put the gas pedal back in, but I didn't want to do that till I had the paint in it. All seam sealed. I went a little above and beyond. Now keep in mind I still have to make some holes back here for the roll bar, but I'm not going to be able to do that till I get the roll bar back in here and mostly bolt it up, and then I can figure out where to drill those holes. We are making progress. Let me show you this. I don't think I've showed you this part. Bam! It's not perfect, but it's better than none, which is exactly what that was. There wasn't anything left of that lower portion of A-pillar there, so we recreated something. It's all tied in nice and tidy. Need to go back. I think I'll do that before I go in the house tonight. I'm going to go ahead and silicone that so it has time to cure. Well, got me some seam sealer all finger painted in there. I'm going to let that cure tonight. Maybe into Saturday. We will see. Alright, so this corner right here was really close to the differential, and I'm afraid there's a small possibility it could connect at some point, and I'm trying to prevent that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add this piece of plate in here at an angle, which will give me a little more clearance here. I'm going to weld this all in, and I'm going to go back and cut this section out, tidy it all up, make it look decent. I just got done putting some braces on there because I don't want this here to move, because I know it's going to want to bow in. I'm going to try to prevent it as much as I can. We're back. Got this thing notched. It's all welded on the inside. Already modified the corners to meet up. Just gonna finish seal welding these spots. Pour me some coals right down in there. That'll ease the transition. And I'll flip it or stand it up. And I'll do this edge as well. And then alright, we got some paint going back on it. Won't be long. This thing will be ready to trial fit again. We are back. It is time to install the fuel tank. Now, I don't have the fill necks all figured out yet, but we can at least get it bolted up in there, and I believe I can add that after it's installed. If not, I'll loosen it up, drop it down, do it that way. I don't have a solution for the fill neck just yet. That's not going to stop me. We need to keep moving along. There it is, all finished up, and it's finished glory, if that's what you want to call it. All strapped down, bolted where it should go. Let me get set up, and we'll get this thing, work on getting this thing installed. About as good as I expected, but it is in there as fast as I want it to. Anyway, we're going to get back on this thing. I think what we're going to go ahead and do is change brake line. The hood, I think I already told you guys, I damaged the brake line. Truth be told, brake line wasn't in very good shape anyway, and I'm sure that's why it just went ahead and cut loose where it did. So we're going to go ahead and see if we can get this line broke loose. I did spray them down with some stuff, I don't know, a few days back. Not a good sign. Maybe they're metric. So a quick update. So I do have 3/16 line brake line fittings. This is a 3/16 diameter brake line. Unfortunately, I do not have the correct fitting. This is what goes into the proportioning valve. This end was one of those pressure fittings, quick fix. Obviously, we're not using that anymore because I'm going to run a brand new line front to back. So I am going to have to harvest this fitting here. I'll get it cut off there, get it all cleaned up. But before I do that, I'm going to try to get my brake line stretched out and get it to, well, I don't know if I'm going to necessarily get it to match that, but anyway, I'm going to get a new brake line out. After I get it mostly where I want it, then I'll come back and I'll harvest this end, and the other end is just going to be a standard fitting. Should work out just fine. Alright, let me see what I can get done. Here is the new brake line. I chose to go with copper nickel. Went with 3/16. There should be, oh look, it's got some fittings in it. I forgot those were in there. Maybe one of those will fit. And then I won't have to harvest anything. Yep, that's it for that. Oh, I wish I had one of those line straighteners, but I'll do it the hard way, and I'll just straighten it by hand very carefully. I don't know if you guys ever worked with any of this. Some of you have, many of you haven't. Pretty soft stuff. Before we stretch it out, we are going to see if by some chance one of these fittings might fit. If nothing else, I'll have extras for another project later. Let's see what we got here. Looks like they're all labeled. Tube nut inverted. 3/16. Yep. This might be what we're looking for. It's a 7/16 by 24, so 7/16 diameter, 24 inches or 24 threads per inch. That looks very close to what's on that hard line. We're going to check that one. That's a potential there. These are too big. They are 3/16, but they're a 9/16 18. Not good for this. Let's see. I don't think it's going to fit this application anywhere, but I have not tore all the brake lines off yet. So hang on to that. Last but not least, we got a 1/2 inch 20. That looks like a possibility as well. So it's a 3/16 diameter. That's the inside diameter of the tube nut. And the outside is a 1/2 inch by 20 threads per inch threaded fitting. So that is a possibility. Let's compare it to the old line. Forgot where I put it. That looks close. Could be a 1/2 20. 7/16. No, I don't believe it to be a 7/16 24. That appears to be too small. At least it doesn't match, with the old micrometer on the outside. So this could put us a couple steps ahead. I don't know if it's going to work, because this has a taper to the inside, where this one, it kind of does. It might work. This is a double flare or inverted flare. Let's see if it'll fit see if it'll at least screw into the bottom of the proportioning valve. If it doesn't work, I'll be sure to leave some extra line in there that I can reflare it if I need to. It'll just suck because it might be stuck in the vehicle. I don't know if I'll commit to that. Let me set you up. All right, so this is a pressure fitting of some sort. I can't remember what they call it. It's a pressure fitting. Anyway, how this works is it's got this brass like flare in there. It's got this nut. What you would do is you'd slide the nut on there, as you see here, put the flare on there, which is going to fit loosely on the line, just slightly loose, enough to get it on there. The other side is it works exactly the same way as this side here. You would slide the two lines together with that flare in there. Try to keep the lines pushed in, and you would just run that nut down until it starts to snug up. Then you tighten it just a little bit more, and then that brass flare in there, it'll bite down on the metal line. Voila, you have a seal. It'll get you by. I'm not saying this is the best option, but it might get you out of a pinch. Be very selective as to what you put one of these on. You can get them in a few different sizes at your local parts store, maybe your Tractor Supply of some sort, whatever hardware store you have. I've used these for long term. I've used them long term when I thought I was going to use them for short term, but then I didn't feel like getting back in there. They are an option. We are eliminating this, is the reason why I'm telling you. Anyway, enough about these. Alright, so we're looking for overall general length. You guys kind of pointed at the ceiling there. So we're going to reattach these loosely. There is no shape on the end of this one really. And we're just looking for some general length. So we're going to try to walk it down the tube, see where we're at, leave about an extra foot. Here's the line. This is the general length. We're just going to kind of halfway walk it down. We're not going to get super technical on it. Try to hold things into place. Now I'm kind of getting out of sight here, but I'll finish measuring it out. Alright, I left myself about an extra foot of material, which means I gotta have more brake line than what I currently have spooled out. We'll come back and straighten this in a minute. Kind of see what I got going on here. And we're gonna go to about here. Alright, let's get the original line out of the way. I don't have my marker. Normally I would have a marker, and I'd put me a mark on here and I can set it down, but I don't have one. So I'm going to try to just scarf it, and I'll make sure that I remove that section, or that I don't use it in the new line. So already lost it. There it is. Let me hang this up. Let me get the tool to cut this apart, or my tubing cutter. Alright, put me a couple bends in it. I'll show you the tool that I used. I found this on Amazon. I thought it was the better quality for the price. Just put it in there, walk it over. This one's actually rated 1/4 inch to 3/8. I told you I'm working with 3/16 line. Did its job. It is copper nickel. It is new. It moves right through it pretty smooth. This kind of matches what was originally there, and then it had like one more little kick over, which I just done that with my hand. Like I said, this is saw. I did tape up both ends to try to keep from getting debris in them, and it allows me to. Oh, that was already coming off. I'm gonna retape that. That's all that I'm gonna do as far as shaping. There's a couple more bends on the factory line. I'm not going to do that. I'll probably just hand shape it. Painter's tape, good for some things, not everything. Probably just going to hand shape it, the remainder of it underneath there. I still do have some clips. I didn't need to put that on there. I need to flare that. And the other end. Anyway, as I was saying, I am going to hand shape it underneath there to do the final fit. When I'm running the line in there, I'll retape everything back up. I'm going to get set up to flare this in. I'll show you guys this process. I'm sure you can find better ones on here, but I'll show you what I do. Works pretty well. First thing I do is I'll take a fine file or a file of some sort. I'll go across that, because after you make that cut, it ends up with a kind of a sharp edge. So I'll just kind of carefully flatten it out with the file, and then it leaves a burr on the inside. In this case, this file, it's pretty wore down. I don't know, somebody's ground on it or something. But it's got a hard edge to it, kind of a sharp edge. So then they've got tools for this, but this works for me. You just got to come in here and do something to round out the inside or the idea of that brake line. In this case, I'm not worried about, reshaping it, because it moves easy enough, but I've got this locked into my vise. This is the tool I showed you earlier. Oh, also, one of the things you want to do is make sure you put that fitting on there first. It sucks to go through all that effort and then realize you forgot that. Take it from me. I've been there. Anyway, we're going to set that brake line. I think it's about 3/16 to 1/4 of an inch. I may have to do this 2 or 3 times because I can't quite remember. Let me get something to lock this down a little tighter. The distance from this surface to the top of the brake line, 3/16, 1/4 of an inch. Alright, we want to make sure it's snug down in there. You're going to find that with metal brake lines, it's hard to get this to bite in there. Anyway, this little tool here, it's got this shaft on it. That's going to go down in there. That's what creates or starts the inverted flare. We're going to take this thing here. Sometimes I've done it in the past, it's like I'll add just a touch of oil to it just to reduce the friction and make it do what I need to do without sticking. But anyway, we're going to do this. Crank this down to get it started. Maybe a full turn, something like that. You don't want to crank it. You don't want to cram it all the way down in there. You just need to get it started. And what that, let's see. I'm gonna go a little bit more. And if you're not sure, if you've not done this before, cut you off a piece of scrap. It's about like 1 foot long if you've got it, and practice. That's what I ended up doing. Alright, we're going to take this. I told you not to take it all the way down. I'm going to take it all the way down. I'm not going to overdo it. I'm just going to push it all the way down. Carefully extract that piece out of there. I have broke that shaft. Don't do that. Down in the brake line, that sucks. Anyway, work that out. Put it back in the tool. The tool holder. And now, with that mushroomed in there, it literally, as you push down, it mushrooms out, creates like a belly all the way around. Once it does that, you're going to come back in with this tool again, and you're going to complete the process. Creating that, in a sense, a bubble flare or an inverted flare
Get her good and snug in there. Back it out and we'll look at it. Looks pretty good to me. Take it back loose and I'll show you. There you have it, inverted flare. Kind of see it there. It goes up. This will hit the inverted flare inside the brake just proportioning valve. Screw that in there, and hopefully that'll create a good seal. There's one end. And let me get set up, and we'll look on the other end. I wasn't quite sure, so you got a couple options here to figure it out. So this was the straight shaft that was screwed into the rubber brake line. It drops down to the rear differential in this case. This is a new fitting. They came with two types. There was a 3/8 style and a 7/16 style, which, if you know fractions or measuring, they're very close in size. So I'm kind of eyeballing it, the diameter. It looks close. To check the threads, remember I mentioned threads earlier? What you can do with the old line and the new is you can match these two together, and what you should have is like interlocking, where thread per thread they match up perfectly. And you'll know if the thread count is different because they'll hit funny and they won't lock into each other, and that's a good indication. Another way is I could take this fitting back to the rubber brake line, make sure it screws in there like it should, and I'll do that just to double check so I'm not doing this effort twice. But I'm about 99.9% sure this is right. The thread count matches up. The diameter appears to be the same. It is a flare type. Let me go double check it before I commit to this extra effort. Alright, I am sure that it matches. So let's take this back off there. Slide the fitting over it. Set ourselves back up again. Remember, 3/16 to 1/4 of an inch. And then we should be happening. Alright, snugging that down. Let me get my inverted flare tool. Oh, and just as a reminder, make sure you put that fitting on the correct direction. Don't put it on backwards. Alright, same process as before. Run this down. This time we know we need to bottom it out because that's what we had to do last time. There's bottomed. Screw that back off there, slide it off to the side. It helps if you oil that. It seems to not pinch in as much. I didn't do that. So I think I'm going to grab a pair of pliers, try to pull that out of there. First pair of pliers I could find. Now all we want to do is carefully extract it out of there. I just couldn't get enough finger grip on it. Remember, you don't want to rock it because you'll break that shaft off there. Shaft is saved. Put it up. We've created our bubble. Now, I didn't file this in or clean out the ID because it was already done. That's the reason why you didn't see me go through that step. But if I would have cut it myself with the tubing cutters, I definitely would have went on ahead and addressed that. You kind of feel it when it gets good and tight. Back it out. Look at it. Looks like it should. this back loose. Wrong way. Remember your directions here. Loosen that up a little. Alright. Looking pretty good. A little crooked. I think for what it is, it'll straighten itself up when I run that nut down on it. You see it's got a little bit of a dog leg in it. I think we'll be okay. If not, I'll be redoing it all. And at that point, I already have fluid and everything. Alright, let me get the fitting back down here. Slid all the way to the other end. And there it is. Now I do one more thing, and I don't know if this is good for copper nickel or not, but I used to do it with my metal lines, and I'm going to pass this on because it could save you guys a headache down the road. And if nothing else, maybe to help the next guy. What I like to do is I put a little anti-seize on these threads, right? Little anti-seize here. And on the metal lines, I usually like to put some right in this area where the nut rides, for obvious reasons. Later down the road, if I need to undo it, I don't have to fight it. Now, I've done this on a couple of vehicles that I've had to do repairs to later or take back apart for different reasons. It has worked out very nice. So I encourage you guys, do that. I think it's going to help you out. Don't get it in the brake line, on the outside of the brake line, and on the threads. And maybe it'll save you some hassle on the road. All right, the next step is we got to feed the brake line in through the Jeep. Now, it's going to be a lot easier on this platform or this vehicle. Mostly, I believe, because it's just shorter wheelbase than your average 1-ton pickup long bed. So, if you absolutely have to do it in 2 pieces, they do make couplers. So, if you don't have enough, or maybe you're going to the hardware, or you're going to the parts store and you're buying links, just keep in mind they make couplers that the end of the brake line can screw into on both ends and seal it correctly. They are correct brake line fittings. If you have to 2-piece it. Maybe you want to 2-piece it. Maybe you want to 3-piece it for serviceability. And I get that. In this case, I didn't want to do it. I didn't have the couplers. And 1-piece just sounds better to me than having multiple connections. It is a shorter wheelbase. It's not that hard to remove the old brake line. So worst case, I just make a new one. Let me get set up. Alright, so we're going to try to get it going in the correct direction in the right location. I'm sure it's going to fight me. This would be easier if I had an extra hand, but I do not. And that is fine. Going to drop it down in there and start feeding it. Alright, we don't have a lot of light. I'll show you what I can. Going to be a lot to see. We are going to finish running this brake line. I've already started putting a bend in it. I've got my direction. We're going to go up and over the shock. Here's the original bracket. I don't know if you can see that. Yep. Somebody bent this out of the way. We need extended rubber brake lines. Man, these are really hard. I'm probably going to have to get some of those. We'll do that at a later date. Hopefully it doesn't create any problems. But we'll get extended ones, and then maybe we can get them back in the original brackets. I'm going to leave means to be able to do something like that. So I should have, I think, enough extra. I'll just have to get creative on how I hold this in place so that it's not bouncing and rubbing. But all right, got me some anti-seize. Put a little on these threads. All right, the other brake line is loose. Not the one that I thought I was doing. This is the one to the front passenger side, which is fine. It's going to be one of the harder ones to figure out how to do because it's got so many different brakes and bends. After lunch problem. I'm going to go grab me some lunch, and I'll get back here and I'll get back at it. Working on removing the front two brake lines. I unbolted the one from the front passenger. Of course, it gave me trouble. I did finally get it out of the rubber hose after some heat, but then the rubber hose started spinning inside the crimp. So since the rubber hoses weren't sufficient for the lift that's on the Jeep, I thought, well, I'll just replace it with a factory one or an OEM style, and I'll go get one. Well, then I had trouble with the driver's side front as well. And I've decided I'm going to go ahead and, go ahead and just deal with the problem. And I just got done ordering me some extended stainless steel brake lines or brake hoses that should cover the front and the rear. So I'll be cracking the rear back open, and I'll be knocking out two problems with one effort. It's just, unfortunately, those parts won't be in until tomorrow. All right, so this is the driver front. It's not in very good shape anyway. I mean, it's either bent or corroded there. Surprised it was sealing at all. The brake line basically busted right away. But worst case scenario, I could have probably made it work. It's still pretty pliable. Once I get the new ones here, I'll probably cut this in half, and I want to see what the inside looks like, see if it's swelled up. But this crimp right here, now this is not the one that moves. Let me show you. So I can do this, and this joint is not spinning. The rubber's not spinning inside that crimp. On the other one, I'm sure it had something to do with heating it. Now we've got that, and I can't trust the fact that that's going to hold together. So since I've got to replace this one, I just will replace this one. And since I can get all three, I'm going to go ahead and replace the rear one as well. It was not as pliable as this, so it probably wasn't very good anyway. But that shuts me down. So I've gone as far as I can with the brake lines. Really don't want to work on the body. Not yet. Earlier in this video, it might have been last video, there was a bad spot in the seat bracket. I got that repaired yesterday. Let me show you the end result of that. This section here was missing. It was pretty well rotted out and gone, broke loose. I recreated that section. It also had a little bit of a rise right here. Let's see, you can kind of see it. In this one, so I just mimicked it with another piece of 10 gauge, which is what I had, welded it on. I had my hole location off by almost 1/4 of an inch. Sometimes my math just don't math. Anyway, I was able to hog it out a little bit and link, gave me a little bit of slop. That way everything lines up. Until then, thanks for watching.